Hello, and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. As a reminder, the thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, we love seeing you live every Thursday night on Facebook and YouTube land. Chats are always fun. There's a lot of information always shared. And just remember, your chats may show up in the show. If you can't catch us live, always catch us later in the chat replay and the Facebook, YouTube replay, or on your favorite podcasting app. Let's see. You know me. My name is John Ruark, and I am a past master of the Patriot Lodge number 1957 in Fairfax, Virginia. All right. Next up for his introduction, let's see, Jason Richards. How's it going?
Going good. Well, how are you? Yes.
The screaming goat makes a return.
Screaming goat minus ears because my cats are demons. Yeah, Jason Richards here, past master Vacation Lodge number 16 in Clifton, Virginia. Rush chairman. Damn glad to meet you.
Awesome. All right. And next up, Joe Martinez. How's it going, Brother Joe?
Hello, Brother Joe. See, who am I? Brother Joe, Still Worshipful Master of Manasseh Lodge, number 182. For
in perpetuity.
5 more weeks. 5 more weeks.
But who's counting?
Life Master in perpetuity.
Negative. Member of all other things. And as always, damn glad to be here.
Awesome. And I think we have RJ in the Mobile Masonic Command. How's it going, Robert?
Hey, things are going great in the Mobile Masonic Command. Appreciate you guys all putting up with crazy Masonic schedules. But anyway, past master 78, Waukegan in Illinois, and current secretary, as Joe likes to say, for life. I don't know, 4 Masonic organizations.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. Glad you could join us in Mobile Masonic Command. So, and Masonry appreciates everything you do driving around. So, go crush those degrees. All right. Let's see. Next up, I want to give a special shout out to the patrons who support the show. You guys are awesome. So, head over to patreon.com/the Masonic Roundtable. We just rolled out a new chat functionality, so only the Knights and Squires get their own private chat with us. So if you can't wait till Thursday nights to watch us live or Friday mornings to get the podcast, you too can chat with us anytime, any day of the week. So head over to patreon.com/the Masonic Table and check it out.
Like really anytime.
Like anytime.
Test it out. Text me at 2 a.m. and ask me for a dank meme, and you will get it.
You will get 100 of them.
He's not lying.
You get a whole smattering of memes at 2 a.m.
Great. Now we need a memes channel. Okay.
A plethora of.
But it's gotta. But dude, it's gotta have like a signal component where they can just disappear into the ether at a certain point.
Snapchat. Yes. Coming next, the Knights and Squires Snapchat.
Oh gosh.
Some of those do not need to remain electronic forever.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Yes. But yeah.
That one picture from PA.
We're all on the level. Okay, so let's thank you, patrons. Let's move over to the next segment that you always know and love, the tarot card of the week.
Tarot card of the week. We need a song for that.
We need a jingle, yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm not singing every week. But yeah, so for the folks that can see us, not the audio folks, I had a tarot cam set up, but it broke. So I am still tarot cam-less, but I promise I will get that sorted out. So
did you point the lens directly at your face?
I did.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yes.
You probably shouldn't do that.
Just through a mask. Yes. So today we're going to do one of my favorite tarot decks.
All right, let's see it.
Yes.
Star Trek.
Napal tarot deck.
Nice.
Yes. Which is, this was a reprint. I know some of y'all are awesome and have the OG ones from 1929. It was also reprinted in the 1950s, I think. But this is the OG size of the tarot deck. It is much smaller than a normal tarot deck, as you can see. But and here are the cards. And
And
they're
the
even
and the box even like the
box.
label is pasted on.
yeah,
It's like old school. It's dope.
yes. So the tarot cards, they're even a little bit
It's
smaller.
also
than
like $100. And I'm
Yeah.
like, ugh,
yes,
$100
but
for a tarot deck.
You-
Oh,
Forget SodaStream. We need a tarot sponsor.
yes.
we do for our Soda Stream obsession. But yeah, so here's the cards. They're They were illustrated by Augustus Knapp, J. Augustus Knapp, who y'all know is a awesome occult artist. He did all the illustrations in lots of Manly P. Hall's work, especially Secret Teachings of All Ages.
I
Boom.
forgot
So-
that. That's cool.
Yeah, so cool dude. All right, so let's shuffle them up. And again, sorry I don't have a tarot cam, but I promise next time I will. And let's see what we got here. Ready?
Not until they go on iOS.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. 6 of Cups.
6 of Cups.
Ooh.
Oh, nice. Right.
6 of Cups. What
We've
do we
we've
got?
had the 6 of Cups before. That is more of your childlike innocence, I believe, right?
Which I have lots of.
Yes.
Yes.
In the Rider-Waite system, that is the one where you got some kids with some cups and some flowers, and yeah, it always brings back nostalgia, good memories, youthful innocence, right? Which is good to have when
Some
you're
skulls with flowers growing out of
what?
It's
skulls.
really a John Ruart card because
What?
it's a feminine card, a feminine energy card. It shows like a plethora, to use the word again, it's Jason's favorite word, of children and happiness. It's your whole family.
It's my millions of kids. Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
I'll give you that.
all your tax breaks. I mean,
Deductions. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
how's a libertarian beat the tax system? Children.
children.
29 children.
Come on, man. You're giving away all my secrets. Oh,
So yeah.
good times. Good times. Well, speaking of being pure in spirit, let's talk about elections. All right. So we decided to choose this topic because we're approaching election season. Halloween is behind us. We're now approaching, no kidding, real world election season. And I thought, hey, what a better time to talk about Masonic elections through the use of balloting. We'll talk a little bit about how do Masons do balloting, how it's different per jurisdiction. We've actually collected some data across a variety of jurisdictions, and basically how do we elect our leaders, and are there protocols and decorum that we have to follow when we do that. So this will be a fun episode because, spoiler alert, they're not all the same.
Nope.
What?
The only thing universal about Freemasonry is the name.
That's right.
Right.
And that's not even true.
Yeah, that's true. Are we 3-letter, 4-letter? Do we have a key? Well, I don't know. So,
Ew. Ew. Audible ew.
all right. So, Jason, why do we ballot in the Masonic administration?
In the Masonic organization, we are elected to receive the degrees. And that means you, as a practitioner, you must petition a lodge to join and receive your degrees. And because, this is a mystery school and not simply a social club ish, you must then, the lodge must then hold a vote on whether or not to admit you into the lodge. And that is a process called balloting.
Okay, so we got like electronic voting machines, like they have for the elections, right? And you fill out your little Scantron circle and feed it in.
Actually, you do it by mobile phone.
What?
Yeah, like they do in like Sweden.
No, you're referring to the crap talking they do right before they ballot. They do that via mobile device.
Yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't wait to blackball Joe.
That's right. That's right. So no.
We don't do electronic
Wouldn't it be nice?
balloting.
So what do we do, Joe?
Well, most jurisdictions, can't speak for all,
But
most
in
jurisdictions,
general.
if we're talking about a ballot for the petition for the degrees in Freemasonry, we use a ballot box, a wooden ballot box with round white balls, and more often than not, black cubes.
What is this, like the 1840s? Like we couldn't
Because-
afford anything better than even pieces of paper, pencil would work too.
Well, funnily enough, Jason said it. This is where all right on.
Good luck, Alfredo.
My vote to receive the degrees will be held on Monday, November 6th. Well, don't mention us. Just keep quiet till Monday.
Yeah, like we are not going to help your chances at getting elected in most lodges throughout the country.
Correct. We appreciate your support, but just keep it hushed for now.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Good
what
luck.
I was going to say was the term blackballing, which is a common term, it
Mhm.
comes from using a ballot box.
The Freemasons.
Yes, and
behind
traditionally,
it.
back in the day, we used to use black balls, round black balls. You had white balls and black balls.
When
But
people were smart enough to be able to tell the difference. Now we
Correct.
have to use black cubes.
well, I don't think it's a smart thing. I think it definitely comes with age. You've got some really
Being
old
sarcastic.
I'm being sarcastic too.
I know.
Really old Masons. And you've got old ballot boxes. I've seen some ballot boxes that have balls that are legitimately gray. Like they're not even white anymore. So, I kind of can't be sure of what we're talking about when we're talking
Sorry,
about the
it's getting
ball.
a little choked up there.
So,
We're all 13-year-olds.
yes, we are. But so many, many years
Joe's
ago,
talking
someone
about
had the
old
bright
balls.
idea to take the balls and make them cubes,
Make black
Ah.
cubes.
black cubes. So you could feel the difference when you're sticking your hand in the ballot box.
So
We're
that's
double
good.
entendres with black cubes.
That's
So
cool
many.
because you don't want to accidentally cast the wrong vote. By accident, right? You want to be deliberate about
Yeah.
what you're voting for.
Ball you're going to grab.
Because it is, we we make jokes about the ballot box, but it is a hugely important piece of the organization and a hugely important piece of Freemasonry. Like, if we are an organization designed to be open to good men who we can make better, then it presupposes that not all men should be Freemasons.
Exactly. It's not just an open door to come right on in. We talked about guarding the West Gate in previous episodes, right? So this is actually one way to execute democratic power, so that we can choose who we want to join the organization. So that comes with great responsibility, especially as a member voting, right? When someone is trying to join, like you have literally that candidate's Masonic journey in your hands when you vote, right? Because you can easily cast them aside. So let's talk about that. So in general, what has to be true in order for this vote to pass?
Well, in general, the petition has to have been brought up in lodge twice.
Mhm.
It has to. I forgot about that. For those playing the audio game, there's a new Apple
Thanks, Apple.
iPhone thing that recognizes gestures and gives confetti and balloons. And when I gave the 2 sign, balloons popped up in front of me.
You should give that
Anyway.
a thumbs up.
So jealous.
Funny enough, it doesn't work with obscene gestures.
A boy and his toys.
We've tried. Anyway, so
Back to ball. Go.
petition must have been brought up in lodge twice and read twice. It has to have laid over for at least what is it, a lunar month, I think.
Most places, a lunar month. Yeah. 28 days.
And then must be brought before the lodge for balloting.
Mm-hmm. And so we're doing like U.S. election rules, right? Like 51% of the popular vote counts, right? I'm getting some head nods and head shakes.
In many jurisdictions, it is 100%. You must
Aha.
receive 100%
Yeah.
of the vote of the brethren present.
So Virginia still does that.
And members of lodge, right?
So let's pull that thread before we go into the exceptions, right? So in Virginia, we have it that it must be a unanimous vote, and that is declared by the master before voting. Like, a unanimous vote is necessary to elect, right? That is there for a reason. So that means that harmony must prevail in that lodge, and that there cannot be one dissenting vote to allow this person to be elected to receive the degrees in Freemasonry. I understand why it's there, and I like it if it's all on the up and up, right? If it's with good intent, that if there's a reason that one brother has an issue with a candidate that's potentially coming in, then you do not want to create years of disharmony in the lodge based on that. However, it's very easy to cast a black cube in secret.
Well, I think we skipped that part too. In most jurisdictions, 95% of them, the ballot is secret and it is sacred, right? Meaning two things.
So
one,
I cannot pressure you into finding out how you voted, right?
Right. In some places, in a lot of places, it's a Masonic offense to inquire as to how someone else balloted, right? Because most of these ballot boxes, go ahead.
And to tell someone else how you yourself balloted.
Correct. So we hear the terms, if you're a Mason or in another organization, you may have heard the term the sanctity of the ballot. So most ballot boxes, if you've never seen one before, and I think we have one in the picture for the show, there's a place for you to put your hand, and you choose the ball or the cube in secret, right? Nobody can see what your hand is doing, whether it's a white or a black ball or cube or whatever. Now, I've seen some people, again, your more advanced age Masons, that will reach into the ballot box and take it out and look at it, through their trifocals and put it in. That's not supposed to happen. So the ballot should be secret, meaning nobody should know how you voted, and you're not supposed to talk about it. So, we've got
a plethora of ballot boxes shown on the screen here. All shapes and sizes and colors, but the gist is basically the same. A wooden box you carry around that can hold
white balls or black raisins.
and then
for old guys. Hey,
a little.
You started to allude to it. You started to allude to the potential problem of a single black cube. I know that there are jurisdictions that allow up to 3 negative votes.
We're gonna. Yep. We have some examples. Yes.
Yeah.
Or maybe some jurisdictions that also do voice votes.
What? This is crazy talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. Perfect scenario. You have 100% of the vote. It's unanimous. That way, harmony of the lodge prevails forever, right? And that way, there's none of this. Did they really want me there? Did really not? It's 100% unanimous. Okay, so that's the best scenario. Virginia is one of those jurisdictions.
But, and people are mentioning it in the comments. There could be potential issues with a unanimous ballot system, right? Because, so again, remember, the ballot is secret and sacred, right? Nobody's going to ask you. Nobody should ask you, and you shouldn't feel the need to tell anybody how you voted. And the only people who get to see the ballot normally are the pillar officers, the stationed officers, right?
Right.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Because they confirm it.
No, and they're not supposed to talk about it, obviously. But in most jurisdictions, there are allowances to cast a ballot again if there is some question as to how that ballot turned out. And this goes kind of to the single black cube thing.
The master can call shenanigans.
Which is kind of nice because it could be an accident. The master can choose to, basically destroy the ballot and start over, because it could happen. I have personally seen where a ballot was not clear, meaning that there was a mixed color of balls cast, and then when it went around again, it was actually clear. So whether the person's conscience changed or whether they accidentally, picked the wrong one, either way, the vote came up clear the second time. So there's a whole process to allow the correction to be made.
Yeah,
It
and many
feels like-
jurisdictions do. Oh, sorry, RJ.
No, I was just gonna say. So it feels like sometimes. I mean, I don't want to say cronyism because I don't think that's like the right word for this, but in the event that, like, let's say the black cube is thrown and it goes around and they're like, hey, how is it, whatever, and they're like, hey, it's not clear and the whatever. There's kind of in a lot of the organizations that I've been in, they've kind of had this weird sort of understanding that if the master calls for a revote, it's more like the master going, come on, stop it. Whereas if he
Knock it
just
off.
goes, yeah, and then it comes clear, right? But if he doesn't call for the recast, he's like, it was probably legitimate.
Yeah, so
That could be.
Hey, that's a bummer.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And some
Yeah.
and some jurisdictions actually have it in there. Some say, it's up to the master, it's the will of the master whether he wants to allow a reballot. And again, it's only and all of you know this, it's only at most the 3 stationed officers that know what's actually in that drawer or in that box, right? It could be 1 black cube, it could be 24 black cubes. So it's usually, in most places, it's the master's discretion. But some jurisdictions, just from the stuff that we got, there are rules around it. If there's 1 black cube in some places, I'm not going to name jurisdictions because I don't know if this stuff is secret or not.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah. If there's only 1, to John's point, it could be a boo-boo, and the master is supposed to reballot, spread the ballot again, destroy that ballot, and start over from scratch. Now, in some jurisdictions, if there's 2 or more cubes in there, the master does not have the option. He has to declare it.
Because 1 might be an accident. 2, yeah, there's 2 different brothers who are.
2 is a data trend.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
2 points is a line, which who's to say that brother just didn't toss 2 black cubes in there when he went up to vote.
So fantastic point. Some jurisdictions, and I've seen this in a jurisdiction I'm a member of. It's not Virginia, and I won't name it. They actually count the deacon actually counts the number of votes that were cast to match the number of people in that room. Now in Virginia, we don't do that. We don't do that in Virginia, we
don't do that in Chicago either, buddy.
Yeah, and I was like, that's kind of interesting. What if there were 5 black cubes and there were 5 extra votes?
I demand a recount.
Well, it's interesting because it saves, like, it basically it kind of nullifies this idea of like abstaining from the ballot, because as a member of a lodge,
Right.
like, you are not supposed to abstain from voting for a candidate.
Right. And so in most jurisdictions, what we've seen, according to the way their ballot procedures are, all members present must vote. Yes, just like Pascal Dobbins says, if there are 10 brothers present, the master or warden should be counting 10 ballots.
What's up, Pascal?
Yeah. So, yeah, that is a way
You
to
just
preserve.
love him for his green beans.
That's the only green beans
They
I'll eat.
were pretty
Do you
good.
guys have in your jurisdictions a specific protocol that allows for, let's say, a Tyler to vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Do
See,
you?
Well, we really don't have anything spelled out, but it's always just been like, yeah, the Tyler votes.
Yeah. So
And
in
this year
general,
at sessions, they voted in some goofy thing to like ensure that the Tyler's able to vote, and it's like, okay, you didn't need that, but I mean, it is kind of weird.
So the short answer to that is here in Virginia,
We relieve the Tyler.
the lodge is sealed during the whole voting process. So as soon as the master gets ready to start the process, no one in or out. And that makes a lot of sense because you don't have people slipping in or slipping out, right, to affect the integrity of the vote.
No potty breaks. No smoke breaks.
If they remember in time, what's customary in Virginia is to allow someone to relieve the Tyler and sit outside, preferably a guest, a non-member of that lodge, to go sit outside so that the Tyler member of the lodge can come in and perform his duty. Yep. Cool. That's a good question.
What about balloting on multiple petitions at once?
Oh, yeah, because that did come up. So can you ballot? Because sometimes you might have 3 or 4 guys that get voted on at the same time. Do we have to read it and spread and clear the ballot every time?
Especially around 1-day conferral time.
It's a busy time. What do you think?
So the answer is no. You can. No, the answer is yes. You can. You can ballot once for the same type of petition. So at least in Virginia, they're called different things, right? So if people are the profane and they want to become a Freemason, they would submit a petition. If you
petition for the degrees.
For the degrees, yeah. If you are like me, who loves to join everything he walks into, and affiliate with a lodge, you would fill out an application. So they're different things. So
well, it's a petition for affiliation, right?
No, it's an application for affiliation.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it is. Never thought about that.
So if you have 3 petitions and 2 applications in Virginia, you can ballot on all the petitions at once and then all the applications at once, but you can't ballot on all 5 at one time because they're different types of things. So hope that answers your question. And I don't think there's a limit on how many petitions you can vote on at once.
Hold on. Wait a minute.
Okay, so you're saying that you can, let's say, are you saying like several petitions at once?
You got go back 30 seconds
to be accepted, or you mean like when they're elected to receive the degrees?
When they're elected to receive the degrees, you can
like
ballot
in
once.
Illinois. You do have to like vote by hand, essentially, to accept a petition, and then like there's not really an issue with accepting multiple petitions, but there's no way that anybody would ever be like, yeah, just lump them all together and then cast a ballot.
So so that's different. So and I'll give you a perfect example because Jason brought it up.
You'd have to separate them if you had black cubes in there, right?
So what happens?
Then that's
what happens, Joe?
Am I missing how you're talking about this?
In this second year as master, we had to ballot on. We read 8 petitions for the second reading, the night it was voted on. I think Jason was there, and we luckily were able to ballot on all 8 petitions with one round of the ballot box. So just one time. Now, to your point, and he left. He didn't want to even hear my answer. If that, and in most jurisdictions, if you can ballot on multiple petitions at once, if it comes back cloudy or dark, then you have to break it up and you have to ballot on each person individually one at a time.
Oh, that's a lot of night.
Yep.
Which makes sense, right?
Oh, 100%.
The default should be positive, but if there's one negative, you got to find out who that negative is. Yep.
Correct.
All right, so what happens?
Should the default be positive, though?
Ooh. Well, that's a really good behavioral economics question.
Playing Baphomet's advocate.
Nice, touche. Yeah, that's a good call. I mean,
So my answer to that is yes, because through the process of getting to know the candidate and the candidate asking for a petition, there, in an ideal scenario, should be an intervention before the candidate submits a petition to the lodge where the brethren say, hey, this isn't the right thing for you.
Gotcha.
And I have seen that occur.
All right, so now let's talk about the small baby elephant in the room, which is what happens for those jurisdictions that allow more than one black cube or black ball to be thrown.
I got one.
You do?
Let's do Jason's super crazy insane one at the end.
Okay.
This one's
that's the next one, yeah.
Not going to name the jurisdiction. Thank you for the information. But their laws say this recognized jurisdiction in the United States says that it takes 3 black balls to reject a candidate. But they take it a step further. The number of black balls will determine, and they say black balls are black cubes.
Right.
It will determine how long you are rejected for. So it says, I'm going to read it. It says, in balloting on candidates for degrees, 3 black balls shall reject for 1 year, 4 black balls for 2 years, and 5 or more black balls for 3 years
Oh, but that before they can reapply.
before they can put a petition
Okay.
in again. Yep. Mhm.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. But yeah,
That is kinda
theirs is, I'm not going to name it. Theirs is 3 black cubes to reject a candidate. So not one,
So
not
two could still allow a member
you're
to
still
join.
in.
So,
Yep.
that just hurts my head because again, we're talking about the perfect scenario of complete harmony, unanimous harmony. But now you know for a fact that there are at least 2 brethren in that lodge that do not want that candidate there, and that candidate has been elected to receive the degrees of Freemasonry. I don't like it.
Well, let's talk about the thing that we've been glossing over a little bit. You know, in that same token, there are good brothers or good potential brothers that are coming to the doors of Freemasonry that have been barred by a single black cube.
Yeah, so let's look at the positive part of that. Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's, I mean, I know I'm looking at people in the comments and I'm looking at people on my Facebook feed right now that are commenting about the show that I know for a fact have sat in lodge or been in a lodge where something, because of the adage of the sanctity of the ballot, they've been rejected to receive the degrees in Freemasonry. And that's messed up as hell, you know?
True. Very true.
You know, so
Well, I mean, yes, however, like, if we hold to the sanctity of the ballot, can we truly ever understand the rationale why?
So we can't even fix it. And you can't
Right.
if there's a problem, we can't fix it.
Right.
Because of sanctity of the ballot, complete anonymity, you know.
That's getting to Brother Mo's comment here. I think if someone can cast a black ball, they should be able to inform their brethren why.
Well, so yeah, so to answer that question, so this comes up a lot, and you know, and I always take guidance from Masons that have been, there are Masons that have been Masons for a bajillion years, and I respect greatly, and you know, they'll be the first ones to tell you, the ones that I, you know, care about and respect, they'll be the first ones to tell you if you're finding out that there's a problem with the candidate by the time you guys get to the ballot box, and something is wrong with your lodge, right?
100%. Oh my goodness.
It should not make it that far.
It should not make it that far. Correct.
Okay. So
Nunya coves you.
the real question is,
I cove you.
Ooh. What do you think about that?
Drew just so thank you. So Metal
Thank you,
Drew,
Metal-
absolutely.
Metal Drew.
He said no discussion before a ballot. Yeah, at least in
There is.
Virginia and
Well-
in other jurisdictions, the master asks, does any brother have anything to say? You know, does anybody want to speak on his behalf, or does any comment need to be made? Things like that. 9 times out of 10, nobody says a word, even the ones that may have something to say.
Well, and often, too, there's an investigation committee report that's presented right before balloting. So in
So-
Virginia, at least, you get the outcome of the 3 brothers who went to investigate the candidate and have a chat with them. And then after that, the master will ask if there's anyone else who'd like to speak on behalf. I don't know about you all, but at Acacia, I feel like 3 or 4 different people get up every single time to say, yeah, this guy's great.
Oh, that's a long night.
I'm like,
I'm going to
cool,
stand up and talk
cool.
for 20 minutes
Like-
to confirm that this guy is okay.
Yes.
yes, but then, yeah, when there's an actual problem with the candidate, like, everybody's quiet. They're like,
Which should be the opposite, right?
right,
Yeah,
It should
exactly.
be speak now or forever hold your vote, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's just the whole. I get the understanding of why we would need more than one black ball to stop someone from progressing through the degrees in Freemasonry, and yet I think it's just asking for, again, disharmony. That's the only word I can use, is that there's always going to be, even with the best intentions, even if that person changes their mind who cast the black cube, or at least the 2 brethren who cast their black cube, there's always going to be this air of, you know, just we didn't want him here, but now he's here, and so but it carries with that brother for the rest of his life. He may not know it, but the lodge knows it. And
Well, he should never know it, right? It's not something that he should ever know that there were 2 black cubes.
It's good. He's gonna find out. He'll find out
because people violate the sanctity of the ballot. Yay!
Right.
Right.
So he'll find out. But again, it's such an odd system to allow that to happen. Because the only thing worse than allowing, up to 3 black cubes would be, I guess, like a voice vote or something like that. Like, hopefully no jurisdictions actually allow just a voice vote.
Dun, dun, dun. QJ.
Or do they?
So, we got some really, really interesting information on this, and there is a jurisdiction out there who will
at
remain
least one
nameless, at least one, where they say a lodge may, at its option, use voice voting for petitioners. If an objection is made to a voice vote, however, the standard ballot box must be used.
Okay, so default is voice, like a yay or nay, I assume.
Yep.
And then if there's a nay, well, I mean, how would you know? Like, okay.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
How does this work?
Wait a minute. If there's a nay during a voice vote, aren't you almost guaranteed there's going to be a cube in the ballot? Like, what's the point?
Okay, so yeah, let's talk back to behavioral economics then.
So
strange.
Well, so the objection is made to the voice vote,
not
an objection in not a nay in the voice vote.
So there's that one guy in the corner who's like, can we actually do a cube or a ball and cube vote instead? Well, gee, I wonder how you're going to vote, pal.
Yes, I see like the appearance of that, right?
There's no appearance. Again, that's just behavioral economics. Who will dissent to a voice vote will more than likely be the one who casts the black cube.
Yeah, dude.
Sure.
I have seen it because it happened.
What?
In an adjacent organization to Masonry, a man was brought up for a vote to send him a invitation, and everybody was like, yay, and only one person was like, hey, we have to have a secret ballot on this. And I was like, oh, okay. And sure enough, that person voted no. And then when it went to the master, he was like, so then when the master essentially overruled it because he had the right to do so. And then that person actually made a big deal about it at the next meeting. So we had to not allow the master to overrule it.
Well, so Eric Schultz brings up a good point. Miss your brother. Sometimes maybe just to dissent from the voice vote is to prove the point or to force the point of a secret ballot. If I were in that jurisdiction, knowing that rule, I would probably be that one guy. Well, here comes John again, getting ready to dissent to the voice vote. We might as well get the ballot box ready, because again, that helps to preserve the sanctity of the ballot. Yes, I know a voice vote would be a lot easier, but you lose something with that.
But going back to what you were saying about, I don't disagree with what you said, but the optics of the situation tell a different story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
You got 35 guys in there and everybody's like, yeah. And you got that one curmudgeon that says, I think we should do a ballot.
But the thing is like, really, the only reason is ease. And if it's ease, then just do something. There are any number of technological things that you could employ.
At that point, right? Exactly.
You know what I mean? Everybody just whip out your phone, press 2 for whatever.
That should be
1 for yes, 9
that
for
point.
no, or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's Amiibo poll.
Yeah, exactly. It should be that easy. Let's do a Kahoot on Masonic
Kahoot.
voting.
Kahoot
That's
on
right.
Robert Johnson.
Oh,
Yep.
geez, you don't want to
Just
see
do
that.
a word cloud with the yeses and nos.
Yeah. So the voice vote, man, that's just so strange. Just because of the awkwardness that comes with that, right? Of having to audibly dissent, right? And so it promotes a different type of social structure, and that's where I'm going with this, right? It's not just the mere fact that whoever's going to have to vote negative has to force the ballot. It's that it's incentivizing a different behavior, or incentivizing the behavior that you want, right? So maybe let's look at it from a positive perspective. It's forcing the awkwardness of that person who has to stand up and dissent. And so it's making it hard for that person to dissent. Now, if that person's a curmudgeon, they don't care. They're going to dissent either way, right?
Is it, though, making it more difficult for that lodge to guard the west gate?
Right. So here's where my mind is. So again, another passion of mine is behavioral economics, which is basically how do you set up an environment such that defaults are easy, right? And so here's a perfect example of that one of the best examples of behavioral economics that I can think of is where in some Nordic countries, I believe it's Norway, but don't quote me on that, the organ donation rate is something like 95, 98%, right? Whereas here in the US, it's much lower. It's something like 50, 60% or lower. And so the question is why? And the way that they do it is when you get a driver's license, the default is, yes, we are going to assume you're going to be a donor, an organ donor, and you must opt out. Whereas here in the United States system, to be an organ donor, you must opt in and make extra steps to add that in. So just by that mere change of the environment of the default to yes instead of the default to no, that changes the behavior and changes the outcome, extremely. So what we're talking about now is how do you nudge personal behavior by setting defaults. And if the default is viva voce, right, of voice vote, then it's going to make it harder. Even if someone really doesn't want this candidate here, they're not going to feel comfortable in a secret ballot because it's not a secret ballot anymore. If you're the one going,
Right.
nay, it's not a secret ballot anymore.
That's correct.
I thought like how hideous the idea of a voice ballot is actually. And so I asked OpenAI to write an argument in the style of Werner Herzog against voice ballot and proposing a secret ballot. And he said, voice ballot, the mere thought of it sends shivers down my spine. It is an abomination, a violation of the sanctity of our democratic process. So that's what he said.
Thanks, Arnold.
I could listen to that for an hour. That was beautiful, Robert. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Get in the ballot box.
I want to see the baby.
Show
Yeah,
me the
I-
baby.
It's not a black cube.
I get back to what John was saying about our defaults while he's dying or grabbing another beer. Yes, another beer.
There we go.
To your point, and we kind of glossed over this a little bit, but Jason touched on it. Our default is that a candidate, that someone who petitions should absolutely go through. And is that the right answer, right? Like, are we setting the expectations correctly? Going all the way back to the half-hearted joke of, are we an enlightened school of mystery or are we a social club? Because if we are a social club, then yes, the answer should be yes. The default should be yes, unless, he murdered someone or, did something horrible or something like that, which, to the point that we've made over and over again, that kind of crap should come up before we get to the ballot box. It should not even be a thing.
Way
right?
before.
Yes. But yeah, no, it's an interesting way to think about it. Like, our default, our mindset is it should always be yes, right? And a no is an exception. But is that what Freemasonry is asking of us?
All right, so we've spent the last 45 minutes talking about just the fact of balloting for admission to the fraternity, but we also vote on other things like electing our officers and changing bylaws and all this other stuff. So obviously we spent the majority of time on the things that are important, right? Introducing new candidates into Freemasonry, but yet we still have to do a balloting process, an election process, a democratic process in order to do these other things. I really like to, Robert, do you mind if I share a screenshot of some of the pieces that we have to follow in Illinois about the, how do you take these ballots and all that? Is that secret, or is that something you want me to share?
I mean, I don't know if that's secret or not. I mean, it's just part of the Constitution of bylaws, and there's like legalities about our legal standing. So
All right,
I'm sure it's probably fine.
I'm sure if it accidentally shows up on the screen, I can't be held responsible, right? But this is interesting, right? I really like how it's spelled out here that for different types of procedural processes, you can take votes different ways. You can do it by voice. You can do it by paper ballot. You can do it by show of hand. You can do it by the ballot box. You can do it just with guilty or not guilty. You can do it with yes or no.
Yeah.
I have not seen this level of detail spelled out in any other jurisdiction. So this is nice.
It's part of the appendix. I mean, like each one of those codes actually it references the Appendix A, which is what this is called. And really, I can't say that I don't know exactly how new this is. Mm-hmm. For me, I think references to the appendix have only maybe in the last 7 or 8 years been noticed by me, but they may have been there forever. But what is great is like for your secretary, they're like, oh, how do we proceed with this vote? Well,
there you go.
Worshipful. We can do this, or this, and you could do a paper ballot and you only need 3/4.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And that's important too. The majority required to pass. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. That's very helpful, by the way.
And this, right, we should all mention that this is just Illinois, right? I mean, like each state has totally different laws, probably.
Yeah.
I'm so afraid to even mention the word because I know y'all are going to cringe. When we get to vote by acclamation. Like you can do that.
We can vote to, like, let's say we were going to put Joe in the worshipful master station again. In the election, somebody would say, I would like to make a motion, or I would like to suggest the name of Joseph Martinez for worshipful master for the ensuing Masonic year. Are there any other suggestions? Are there any other suggestions? Are there any other suggestions? If there are none, somebody stands up and says, Worshipful Master, there being but one suggestion for the office of Worshipful Master for the ensuing Masonic year, I move that the Lodge cast one unanimous ballot for the same. And then the Master has to say, there's been a motion on the floor. Second.
So that's
boom, done.
So first of all, that's a crappy example. That won't happen. And second of all,
never say never.
I've seen shut up. I've seen that. So if you swap out suggestion and replace nomination, that's exactly what I've seen done. But we call that, so we don't even have to have the lodge actually say anything or shout anything or anything. But if there's only one candidate for a position, he can be voted in by acclamation, which is just, hey, there was nobody else, so there's no need for a vote because you're stuck with the job again, which has happened before. So, yeah, acclamation. I hate it.
Nice. All right, so we've covered unanimous ballots. We've covered the process of balloting. We've covered in some jurisdictions that more than 2 black balls will stop progress. We've talked about voice voting. We've talked about procedural voting. What have we missed? That's the real question, because there's a lot
Grand
to cover.
Lodge. Grand Lodge elections. That's a whole separate.
Oh,
We could
holy
probably do a
smokes.
whole show on that.
Mhm. Well, before you get into that, I mean, there was a comment that again is probably worth mentioning, right? It's that sometimes people will cast negative votes, not for the quality of the character of the candidate for Masonry.
because they don't like something about them personally, or
race
somebody
and
put in the
sexual
chat.
orientation.
They said cover racism,
Religion.
please.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah,
The
that's
color
a
of their
thing.
skin, who they pray to,
Yep.
who they love. Those are all.
Not gonna like ignore that, because that is an absolute fact. Human beings are awful, and they're going to, despite the code of Freemasonry being something that does not disqualify a member.
And that's fundamental to the craft. I mean, that is spelled
Yeah.
out in the code.
Right.
At least here in Illinois, it says it is the moral qualifications of a man that should recommend him to be a member
Yes.
of our fraternity.
Yep.
Freemasonry knows no distinction of race, color, or creed. Right? Or sometimes it says,
A lot of jurisdictions have a similar clause that says before we vote, we are only going to consider the moral qualifications of the man. And yet, the ballot is secret. Sometimes, even in U.S. elections, we ballot because it's a popularity contest, not because of the issues, right? And so, that's the downside to unadulterated democracy. But here we are.
Meh.
Okay, Grand Lodge, and then we'll wrap up. Take it away, Joe.
I mean, we would need a whole nother show to cover this, but
Yeah,
each
we would.
Grand Lodge has its own. Some Grand Lodges have true elections where people are nominated and people run for office and people put videos on Facebook of why they need to be elected to this position. Very cool. Some other jurisdictions, again, certain parts of the Grand Line, they can nominate themselves for or be nominated for. Some jurisdictions, some more archaic jurisdictions, it's basically that whole thing that Robert said, where you're voting by acclamation. So, while you hold the card up or you plug one of those electronic voting machine things, which some jurisdictions use, that's awesome. Some places you're voting in name only, where the people all get to automatically move up a chair, and it's very there's no election to that process, right? The people just move up by default. Unless somebody gets up, and it gets a wild hair and nominates someone, then you will have elections. But for the most part, it's an automatic. It's that whole progressive line scenario, right? People just get moved up and up.
There's
and
no
up.
progressive lines in Freemasonry.
Oh, Lordy, you got to go to lodge once in a while, man.
Good comeback.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. Thank you for that. Yeah, that whole process is unique for every jurisdiction, and has their own clause and their own sections laid out in their own Masonic Grand Lodge laws. So that's a different conversation for a different day. Still democratic, but yet every jurisdiction does it a little bit differently. So we could talk quite a bit on that. But let's go to final question of the week. And let's open it up. So again, what is the wish, right? What is, if you were Grey Master for a day and you were able to amend or change the way that we do elections? So think about it, and it could be from anything. It could be from a simple vote to have a fish fry all the way down to the sanctity of admittance into the degrees of Freemasonry. Anywhere in between. Would you change anything? What would you do? Or if any, all right? Or do you like it just the way it is? So I'm giving you some time to think about that. And we'll start with Robert, since he was in Mobile Masonic Command and finally joined us here in person. Would you change any of the democratic procedures? And if so, what and why?
I think that I think I would change a couple of things about, in general, how the ballot is used in terms of this democratic process. I think I really like the secret ballot, the wooden box. It feels traditional. It feels old and cozy and comfy and sitting by the fire with granddad. And I think that has a place in the solemnity of the lodge, right? When we're trying to keep away from things like distractions. And a lot of times, phones and things are distractions. Electronic devices for voting could be a distraction, all of those things. But I think also, if I were the Grand Master, maybe I would propose some sort of some sort of technology that would allow us to utilize better technology to accomplish many of these things. I mean, one of the biggest things that just drives me nuts is like at Grand Lodge, right? At Grand Lodge sessions, as Joe was talking about, uh, it's simply not enough time to put 1,200 dudes, allow them to toss a cube or a black ball or a white ball. So what do? They give everybody a registration. All of the sitting masters, wardens, get a card, or their proxy gets a card, a colored card, and they have to just hold it up. And they're like, hold up your cards, brethren, right? It could be for like legislative changes, right? And that's how they do it. And they have to just kind of eyeball it. Yeah, that looks like 2/3. Yeah, that looks like half. And that's just like, to me, is just mind blowing.
Yeah, I've
Right.
seen that go wrong.
I mean, just as case example, I know we're running up on time here, but I would just say, like, like a year and a half ago, maybe last sessions, we had somebody run for one of the elected positions from the floor, and when it came down to that, they had to actually just write it down on a piece of paper, and then the DDGMs took all the papers in and took them behind the curtain. And we found out later who got elected, and it was a difference of like 60 votes or something.
Wow.
And I'm just thinking, wow, in a fraternity where nobody was able to, what do you call it? Campaign,
Mm-hmm.
just running from the floor right there. That's really close. And how do we trust it? How do we trust the system, right? Because the votes go behind the curtain, and it's all DDGMs who are doing the counting. You know what I mean? It just feels skeezy. Electronic voting. That's it.
All right. Nice. I like it. Good conversation, especially because, again, I've seen where it's gone awry with, hey, I'm full disclosure. I have seen with my own eyes where the ballot was holding up the cards, because I was one of those. It was during my year. There was a amendment that proposed. A majority raised their cards, and the Grandmaster declared it not eligible. Like, it was negative.
Yep.
What? But that's the way the procedure worked. It's a broken process.
Well, it's similar for voice votes, right?
Yeah, that's true. Jason, tell us more about voice votes. And take it away.
As opposed to like answering the final question.
Yes, it sounds like you wanted to talk about it, so go for it.
So I'm torn between wanting to enable lodges to do what they feel is best at the local level, budding libertarian, and you're trying to really preserve the sanctity of the ballot, while I mute John because he is typing and clicking his mouse in my ear. That's a difficult one. I don't know what specifically I would change about the lodge voting process, outside of perhaps instituting, maybe even an anonymous, not even an anonymous, without instituting like a mechanism for being able to give feedback on a candidate, before the night of the lodge.
Okay.
Like
So-
what I'm trying to do is encourage more transparency among brothers, and that's why I kind of went back on the anonymous thing,
Gotcha.
because that discourages it. I'd rather put mechanisms in place so that the brothers can have more heart to heart, hard conversations
Yeah.
to promote the harmony of the organization.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you for that. That's a good one. Don't know how to fix it, but I like where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Joe, what would you change, if any?
I think that, and this is just from personal experience, I've seen the ballot box used more in a negative sense to bar good people from becoming Masons, more so than the ballot box being used as it was intended to bar people that are unworthy from becoming Masons. So that is the thing I'm struggling with, because I also respect the sanctity of the ballot, but I think it is used far more often, in my experience only. I don't want to speak for everybody else. It's been used, the sanctity of the ballot has been used as an excuse for people to vote their prejudices. And I've witnessed it firsthand. That makes me sad. It definitely makes me more than sad, but it's a PG-13 show. So I wish there were some way to change it so that we could discourage that type of behavior, whether it was something that the master could do. The master in most lodges rules and governs, and he is the autocrat of the evening. So I wish there was something he could do to discourage that type of behavior. But, and I know I said it numerous times, the time where a potential issue could arise should not be at the time where a ballot is getting circulated, right? And if you're waiting, and this goes to all the Masons out there, if you're waiting for the ballot box to go around for you to vote the way that you want to vote, that doesn't base your vote, I said vote 14 times, base your vote on the moral qualifications of the person, but instead on the color of his skin, or where he goes to pray, or who he chooses to spend his life with, you suck. You're not a good Mason. You are not a good. I mean, there's no other way to say
Yeah.
that.
Love it.
You are a bad Mason. So
He
again,
is not the Messiah. He is a very naughty boy.
if there, so I don't have an answer, right?
Okay.
I've posed a problem without an answer, and it sucks.
But you're highlighting the inefficiency and potential, harm that it can cause. So yeah, I mean,
Well, and just the bad character of some folks in the lodge, right? Or the weak character of some folks in the lodge.
how about crab roasts? Are they allowed to be voted on?
Always voted down.
Oh,
Crab roast forever.
I like myself a good crab roast.
I'll
All
give you
right,
a
thanks,
crab
Joe.
You're welcome.
Let's see. For me, first, Metal Drew, thank you for giving us a super chat. You are awesome. So thank you for that. Obviously, I'd like things more digital rather than the tangible way of dealing with cubes and fumbling with physical objects. There's always a way to mess up that process, even with good intention. Try to make that digital. Try to make that auditable, because with democracy becomes, the ability to have every vote counted. And so I am very interested in making sure that integrity of the vote is preserved. Now, what that means, that would mean that really the secrecy of the ballot would have to change. Again, haven't put any more thought into this than the last 3 minutes of the question of the day. But one thing I think that could help with that is, let's assume everything's digital and everything's auditable. Just like we do in looking at the ballot box, the masters and wardens are the only ones who actually know how the ballots were cast. Now, under this new digital system, the masters and wardens would be the only ones who would know how it's digitally cast and would know which brother is casting dissenting votes. So that gives us a data point. What I would add to that is that if that were the case, now that becomes a Masonic secret. Okay, it's only between the dissenting brother and the masters and wardens of that lodge. So what that allows you to do is now have that conversation, right? If the master and wardens find that a brother is consistently casting dissenting votes for particular brothers of skin types, of social preference, etc., now they can have a personal, private conversation with that brother to say, hey, let's talk about this. What do you have going on? Because now you're actually stopping potentially good candidates from joining Freemasonry, and you're the only one. We know you're the only one. And that actually gives a little bit of accountability and stops the coward from hiding behind the ballot box, right? So we're introducing digital auditable functionality, and we're introducing also a checks and balance that allows for a conversation, right? We keep that a Masonic secret, but yet we have that traceable so that we can eliminate some of this redundancy. Haven't thought through it any more than that? Send your hate mail over to me. I appreciate it. theMasonicRoundtable@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Otherwise, this has been a fantastic episode. Covered a lot of ground. And I think, we probably could have a whole other conversation on Grand Lodge voting as well. But for tonight, we've covered the ballot. Go out and vote in your usual outside of the lodge, and do what's best for you and what's best for your conscience. With that, I want to say thank you very much, and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.
Wow.
You tried to sneak it in there, Jason.